Do not be empty. Unless, your question is, my wife died and I'm lonely and sad and pathetic. I want to date, but every time I see another face, the image of my wife comes forth and it ruins everything. And I walk home alone in the rain. Is there any way I can overcome, this particular grief? And if you happen to have a good therapist, or read the right kind of books, have the right temperament, the only recommendation is just wait about 2-3 years. It'll just fall organically on its own. And then you'll be empty of this image, and now you can go out there and date. The other thing is the cultural aspect of it. You and I live in a culture that forces emptiness on you. You don't have to work at it. It ruins everything. The speed of this culture, the amount of options you have. I don't even think in the entire country of Iran we have a place like Costco. Iran has been around for 4,000 years, 70 million people, maybe more. There are no Costcos, which means your options are always limited. You go to Costco, it's a one-stop shop. It has everything. And add to it the fact that people make money in such an easy way. TikTok and YouTube and all this other things that have have been sexualized. Open fan or fan open, what is that called? Only fan, yeah, you're an 18-year-old kid and you make all this money. It doesn't take very long for you to become saturated. And once you're saturated, all the things that used to be the driving force in your life, they no longer push you towards anything. The culture by itself makes life irrelevant. You look at yourself and it doesn't mean anything. Your ambitions no longer mean anything. There are just too many things. You have too many things. And you just lose respect for everything. It's no joke, 1 out of every 5 Americans being depressed and on antidepressant. That's devastating. It's good to be empty if you have something to fill it in with. You just don't know what. What can our good friend over there do? Date who? He's like a 50-some-year-old man. He doesn't like to be alone. Nobody likes to be alone. But where do you go to find some quality? Given this culture and the sort of emotions it creates, maybe it's just best to be alone. This is such a depressing class. Hey, Michael, it's good to see you. You're wearing white. Good to see you. Anyone else? Jalua?
In one of the videos, you talk about reflection and how it's difficult to know how to guide your reflections and how deep to go or when to stop or when to share. And I feel like that kind of relates to what you were just talking about. If you look too far into the future, you'll ruin what you could enjoy in the present.
By the time you move into this world called reflection, it's like you're intoxicated. You're drunk. There is no going back. Unless you can put yourself physically in an environment where there is so much distraction and the distractions are so intense that slowly this art of reflection will just be yanked out of you. But by the time you get to this place where you want to reflect, and in fact you have the ability to reflect, it means you have moved psychologically, intellectually, from just looking at something and just passing it by to looking at something, pausing, studying it, observing it as best as you can under the microscope, and then unpacking to see what lives inside of it, taking notes, trying to process, understand, and then apply it. If you're at that particular place, then you really just have sacrificed your life to the art of reflection. You carry this cross and you have no other option. If you have crossed that line. If on the other hand, you're still like thinking about things and then you forget and then think and then forget, you still have a good amount of life to live. If on the other hand, that's what reflection is, you it's an experience in the past or something that's taking place in the present, and then you pause everything. You detach yourself and then you look at it. And once you become addicted to that particular form of a lifestyle, it doesn't matter what you walk into. It really doesn't matter. From that point on, what you need to do is you need to make sure you can pretend well. If you can't pretend well, your life, really, it will be toppled. If, for example, you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and let's just say you have taken a class or you read a book or you have a friend, and you're slowly moving into the world of intense reflections, you are going to ask, well, is relationship or are relationships meaningful? Is it good to compromise? Is it worth understanding other people? If you were to go home with those ideas, your relationship is not going to last. Unless you can be one way, in your own reclusive way, in the world of reflection, then you go home and say, oh, honey, I love you, I've missed you so much. And deep down, what you really want to do is either stab yourself or stab him. Because you don't want to be there. But you also understand the complexities of being a human being. You're like a 30-year-old woman. You want children. You have no school, you have no money. He needs to pay rent. What are you going to do? Kick him out? And then what? Go to Target and steal a tent and live in the streets? No, you pretend. If you can pretend well, you'll be safe for a while. Until things kind of balance themselves out. Yeah.
Let's talk about last week about radical acceptance, and is it then that two truths can exist in one place?
No. Well, I don't really know what that means. What he said or what you said. Can I not be open and diverse and biased and rigid? Whenever I used to sing Persian traditional songs, Hussein would always be upset. He'd say, oh, here he goes again. He's going to sing the same way. It's boring. It's unorganized. He's not following the traditional ways of singing. It took me a while to realize, well, this is just the way I sing. And so when my daughter started playing the piano, I saw a good amount of technical form to her. It's good, but there are no emotions. So I eventually told her, listen, you got to play it this way. And I need to see these facial expressions. Without them, your music just sucks. And the point I'm trying to make, it's not her truth and my truth, it's my truth alone. If you have a relationship where you have to compromise and live together harmoniously, then yes, you have to respect her truth, whatever that truth may be. If on the other hand, you're living with me, I don't care about your ways. You have to hang out with me until my truth becomes your truth. Is it brainwashing? Yeah, why not? Piece of advertisement, no different than Pepsi, or, those big bulletin boards on the highway. Weed are us, 20 cents an ounce. Same thing. Diversity and openness is good only when you're very, very proficient at what you do. I mean, look at you. You do all sorts of designs on people's body. And you can do them because you're very proficient. Imagine if day one you had a teacher who said, oh, you know what? Do whatever. You want to stick this needle like 5 inches deep into this guy's body? Fine, it's okay. You can be diverse and open and creative because you're very proficient now. You've had practice for 20 years. Anyways. So, Michael.
So it's about the topic we talked about earlier, and if you were talking about how to basically heal, how to basically be empty for something that is bad, how long would that usually take, or what's the estimated time?
You want to build a house, you look at an existing concrete, and there are some cracks, and you kind of look at the cracks very closely and you say, oh, okay, this is just a very superficial crack. We don't need to patch it up, but you can if you want to, but it's not necessary. And then you go about anchoring, the frame of the house to the foundation, and it's quite solid. The flip side is you look at a certain crack and you come to realize this is a bit more serious. Then you can go to Home Depot, get some epoxy of sorts, and kind of bring the cracks together, the concrete together, which makes it more strong than the concrete itself. Or you come to realize the cracks are so, it's so root-based that you just need to go to Home Depot, either rent or buy a jackhammer and just get rid of the whole thing. So before you can talk about healing anything, first you need to understand, well, what sort of a pain are we talking about? Is it superficial? Is it just below the surface? Is it like a crack to the point where you just need to demolish the whole thing? That's the first thing, which in itself takes a while to kind of understand. The other problem is if you have been hurt. My son, a few months ago, we were on the bicycle and we fell. It was my fault. But every time I tell him, let's go for a bike, he says no. Bike ride, he says no. I mean, he's a young kid. And we only fell no more than maybe 20 times together. I mean, just twice. But it's enough for him to say, no, I'd rather walk 50 miles than to get on the bike with you. How that's going to impact his future desire to buy a bicycle, to ride a bicycle, I have no idea, okay? Hopefully it's not going to be as rooted as someone who's just paralyzed for the entire life. Because we're also self-deceptive animals, we don't like to see the depth of our pain and hurt. It's too much. And the sort of realization that we come to, the sort of clarity that we reach, and the sort of emotions that come out of the clarity, it's just sometimes too much. And for you to be able to handle anything, you need tools, you need resources. If you want to carry like 500 pounds on your back, well, you need to be buffed. You need to have exercise. You need to be in good health. Those are the resources you need to lift this particular weight. Now, also, if you have been betrayed or hurt, depending on what age, if you're 20, fine. I mean, you can kind of recover after a few years and go your way. If on the other hand, and let's just say it wasn't your first love, for example. If on the other hand, you were 2 and your parents did A, B, C, D and it stayed with you and that's how you've been shaped and formed, you kind of lose your ability to have faith and trust and love anybody from that point on, So And everybody has a different temperament. And everybody is going to come across a different set of teachings. Some teachings are not going to be compatible with the way your software is. Some teachings are, but for you to accept, you need to first trust and have faith. And it's not going to feel good once you see some, dark stuff about yourself. You're going to reject it because it is a loss of identity of sorts. You thought yourself to be great. Now someone shows you that you're a scumbag. And that's going to be quite devastating. It's going to take you some time to recover. It's like walking into a ring with Mike Tyson, and he's going to flatten you. And you have to figure out if you want to stand up and fight again or just give up. And just say, you know what, I think I'm done with therapy for at least the next few years. That's enough, pain to carry for me in a few lifetimes. So the answer to your question is very complicated. And for someone to actually be interested in your question, they have to be interested in you. And to be interested in you, you must have made some impression on that person so that they're willing to invest their time, their energy, their life on you. And then they have to sit back and just listen to you. Just talk and talk and talk and talk until you gain their trust. I mean, I don't know if you have ever been around stray cats, and I only say this because there is one that has come to the house over the past 2 years. Every night, she comes and just sits. And I say, okay, I have the power to go to the garage and grab some food and bring it to her. Every time she sees me, she runs away. And I say all these profanities, oh, God damn it, this cat, I spend all this money, all this time. She won't even stay around to say meow, like a hello, nothing. And as I close the door, she just waits. I stand by the door, she just waits. I have to shut the door, turn off all the lights, make no noise. Then she's eating. And that's how it is. Someone just needs to be around you for a long, long, long time until it's no different than, what is that movie with, that movie with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and Good Will Hunting. He teaches psychology, he's, I suppose, a therapist as well. But that Matt Damon doesn't budge. He doesn't reveal anything about himself. They just go to the office, he just sits. Nobody talks. And when Robin Williams' friend says, well, why don't you start the conversation? He says, no, I'm not going to start. He needs to open up. I'm not going to push. And that's the thing you need to understand. You can't make the grass grow by pulling it. The seed is there. They know the hurt, they know the pain. But I can't force that pain to come out. They need to show it to me. They need to reveal it to me. And, it's no different than the AA program. Whether you're addicted to pain, to your past, to alcohol, to drugs, whatever the case may be, it takes a long time for you to just say, I'm a man who lives in pain, and I want to share with you my pain. No different than saying I'm an alcoholic. It just takes a long, long time. And I think the way this culture is designed, it kind of just tells people all these ridiculous stories, that here's a book, here's a therapy, here's a this, here's a that. And just keep at it for 5 or 6 or 7 months and you'll figure things out. And the truth is, it's not true. It's not true. I mean, look at the stuff in Israel and Palestine. I mean, you have 50, 60, 70 years of history. It's like saying you have 20 years of hurt. Well, you have a good amount of violence inside you, and you have a good amount of deception inside you. You hide all the time. You tiptoe around stuff all the time. And all of a sudden now what? You want to kind of create harmony. Well, how the hell do you do it without understanding the past? And the past is horrifying. Now, how many in this class know anything about Ben Shapiro? You guys have heard of his name? He's this prick, right? And he has these degrees, fine. He is given these stages. He goes and talks to people about all sorts of things. Gender issues, religion, philosophy, whatever the case may be. Well, go to this guy one day when he's on the stage and don't give him any space to talk. Be loud, be obnoxious, threaten his life. And then when he's about to leave, just tell him, well, this is exactly how Palestinians feel. You know, I've come to this auditorium, I've invaded your space for an hour, and you walk away because you have power. What happens when somebody invades somebody's space? Now, you as a kid want to be happy, you want to be comfortable, you want to have faith, you want to love, you want to trust. You have an invasion of sorts. Someone comes and destroys all those things about you. That's an invasion. And that pain, that hurt, that history now occupies. Now, 80% of your soul, your psyche. Okay? Well, and for 20 years you've lived with this occupation. And now one day you say, I don't want to be occupied anymore. I want to drive this intruder away. Well, how do you deal with it? Because the history is like this living organism inside you. It won't go away. It is living. It's like anything that's living out there. It desires to survive. You need to appreciate your history. It's a living organism. Just because you want it out, it's not just going to go and walk away easily. It's going to put up a fight. Your desire is new. I want freedom. The history has imprisoned you. It has more power than you. You have to be violent. You're not going to like yourself. People are not going to like you. It's a revolution that's taking place inside you. And you better have a support system, a therapist, friends, parents, and they need to be patient. You know, casualties of war, your parents are casualties of the pain that lives inside you. Your girlfriend, your kids. And you have to understand all these things. And there's a good chance that your parents are going to be disappointed because you're going to relapse. And it's normal. You know. And so that's how things are. Fuck. You just got to respect the stuff that lives inside you, man, because they have power. They have power to demolish you, they have the power to inspire you, they have the power to enslave you. They can do all sorts of things. Yeah. Kevin?
Scared me, I ain't saying that.
You know, immigrants, you know, whether you're from Mexico or India or the space, you just kind of look at your environment and you say, you know what, my country, it gives no hope to life, no hope to my kids. And you pack up everything and you just leave, and you come here, or you go somewhere. And you work from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. And you go home, you're completely exhausted. You know, people have it tough. They really, I mean, life is complicated. It's very, very, very difficult. You know, and I think any self-respecting human being and someone who understands things slightly well, they just need to come out and say, listen, this is not going to, you're not going to recover from this overnight. It's going to take you about 20 years. So be patient. Grow a thick skin. And you're going to abuse a whole host of people in your life until you get it right. That's the way it is. Abi? Hira? Express pain? I know, this class is, yeah. When your child is born, they express pain, or maybe it's joy. I don't know if they experience birth as a joyous thing, but they express it through screaming and crying. There is no other way for them. Then kids are very possessive, and when a friend or a sibling takes away a toy, they express their sense of betrayal or pain by punching the sibling with a hammer, or in the face, or kicking them or something. That's how they express it. And then they become a bit more civilized. Like they go to school, they read Walt Whitman, James Joyce. And so it's a literature class, and you're supposed to talk about grief. And because you've been educated, you express what you read really, really well. And then you get a message that your dad died. And you wrote a big, wonderful essay about grief and loss. You say, oh, my father died. Let me go read my essay. Maybe that'll be a place of comfort. No, you scream, you shout, depending on your relationship with your father, of course. Or maybe you've just been diagnosed with cancer. Who the hell knows, whatever it is that you've lost. You can't express anything well because it's an art. And initially you're going to fumble. You're going to get a whole host of things wrong. Emotions are intoxicating. You know, you cry, you laugh, you're mute, you're violent, you become reclusive. No one will have access to you, not even yourself, to yourself. And then there comes a point where you sit. I mean, you're just tired of being in pain, and you want to understand it. And I don't know how it happens. You know, all I know is that the seed that all of us have inside us, this desire to understand, whether it's understanding this class, understanding your shoes, understanding what shoe size you need to wear, it doesn't really matter. We have this seed of understanding inside us, okay? And it's just going to take you a long time to desire to kind of understand the pain that lives inside you. And you're going to try and try and try and try again until you are able to become really proficient in expressing this world of pain. I mean, you have to give it to someone like the Buddha, not someone Jesus Christ. He was no good. He kind of tells this story and says, go figure it out yourself. Jesus is like a scientist. I mean, not Jesus, the Buddha. He kind of like looks at life as a rat. He dissects this rat, i.e. life, in half and says, let me tell you what's inside. Inside this life is desires. Inside desires are attachments, fantasies, hopes, dreams. And then you pursue them. And depending what it is you want to pursue. We can desire things of the body, things of the emotions, things of the mind, or things of the soul. And each requires you to have a different capacity, different patience. Your skin needs to be thicker, okay? And then once you're intoxicated with a desire, you're going to push forward. And then you will touch, you will possess what you've desired. And then you begin to live inside the thing that you've desired. You know, it's like you get a phone and you begin to live inside the phone in the sense that you understand how it works. It's just you and the phone. You walk into the world of the phone. You get to know everything about it, at least a good amount of it. And then after a while, you're no longer interested. And there comes a point where you live in the object of the desire, whether it's sex, whether it's coffee, whether it's school, doesn't really matter. There comes a point it no longer has anything to offer you, to inspire you, to excite you. And then you get bored. Now imagine if you were to apply that insight into every aspect of life. That's a painful cross to carry on a daily basis. Now this is a man who understands what it means to be born, what it means to have desires, what it means to have kids, what it means to be married, what it means to love your parents, what it means to love your culture, and yet walk away from the whole thing. He's a great scientist. You know, the age of reason didn't create any rational human beings. The age of reason happened in the lifetime of the Buddha. Not Jesus, he was a man of faith. Not Moses, not Muhammad, only the Buddha. He dissects everything for you. You know, once you understand, then maybe you can kind of proceed to becoming like a Moses or a Jesus or Muhammad. But until then, be a good Buddhist. Don't believe in anything. Don't have faith in anything except your own powers of observation. Wow. Anyone else? We have time for a quickie. Kevin.
I always thought that Buddhism was a lot of stuff.
Assumptions?
Yeah. So, I mean,
Forgive me, I don't mean to interrupt. The only thing you need to read about Buddhism are the Four Noble Truths. That's all. Do not read the commentaries. Do not read what other people after Buddha said. Okay? Just the Four Noble Truths. Life is suffering, there is attachment, there is a way out, and then the 8-step program. Just study those. Nothing else. Because a lot of things that usually come after the prophet or a savior, the philosopher, it's just junk. You know. And I say junk because, okay, so you're a Buddhist, you read the teachings, and then you interpret the teachings, and you add a few, you know, you subtract a few. You don't want to do that. Just read the Four Noble Truths just over and over and over again. You don't need anything else.
that was a better way to put it, interpretation.
Yeah. 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 We have time.
Is the American culture
Sucks.
Well, I was wondering if it's more isolated than others, and why that might be.
I'll just give you a very, very, very simple example. We had a tiny furnace back home. Winter time, snow everywhere, it's freezing cold. You have 10 people gathered around this tiny little heater. You eat food there, you talk there. The absence of technology brings people together by force. And then little by little, relationships grow organically. You go home and you're cold. You turn on the AC or the heater, okay? And you go to your room and you lock the door. And you wait, 5 hours later your mom says, dinner is ready. Well, you go there, you put some on your plate and you say, Mom, I'm sorry, I have an exam tomorrow. Okay, you go back to your room. It's your promised land. And you realize technology by its very nature isolates people. I'm not going to talk about the other philosophies of life existing in America. Just technology by itself creates its isolating factor. I just don't know if there is a way to stop stage 4 cancer. I mean, all of us desire to be communal, to have lots of friends, but the truth is, we're just not wired for that. We desire it, but we don't have the wiring. You know, our hardware or software just doesn't accept that particular program. That be friendly towards people, spend time with them, be interested in them. I think that particular era has passed. And maybe we're just the experimental generation, that maybe our kids will cope much better with isolation and loneliness and depression and not being married, and not having money and not having this, not having that. I don't know. But this generation, forget it. Yeah. Well, listen, it's been great. Have a nice day. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, really?